I'm going to talk about dark reaction. Dark reaction is the second part of the photosynthesis. The first one is light reaction. The dark reaction leads to the production of food in the plants by the process of photosynthesis. It uses the products formed by the light reaction. The other names given to the dark reaction are Blackman's reaction because of the name of the person who gave this reaction, that is Blackman. Another name is biosynthetic phase. The reason it involves the action of enzymes to produce or to synthesize food materials, it is known as a biosynthetic phase. Here in the dark reaction, CO2 fixation takes place. So CO2 fixation takes place in the dark phase. This dark phase occurs in the stroma part of the chloroplast. So the site of dark reaction is stroma of the chloroplast. Now, we can recall where does the light reaction takes place. So the light reaction takes place in the grana or thylakoid of the chloroplast, right? Now, this trauma will have all the enzymes required for the dark reaction, that is enzymes like Rubisco, Papkase enzyme. We are going to discuss these enzymes further in this topic. These enzymes are quite sensitive to the temperature, and hence this dark reaction is sensitive towards the temperature. Because dark reaction involves the enzymes, it is sensitive towards the temperature. Next point, these dark reaction depends on the light reaction. Now you might be thinking why it is known as dark reaction when it actually depends on the products of the light reaction. This process is known as dark reaction because it does not requires the light directly. The light reaction will require direct light for the production of its products, but dark reaction depends on products of light reaction, not directly on light. Hence, it is known as dark reaction. The two products which are used from light reaction by the dark reaction, the first one is ATP, that is the source of energy, and another one is NADPH2, that is the assimilatory power. Now, here we can say that this dark reaction is actually a misnomer because we just now said that it actually depends on the products of the light reaction. In different photosynthetic organisms, different ways of dark reaction are there. So we are going to divide this dark reaction into three ways or three types, we can say. So three ways are there. The first way we have is C3 pathway. The C3 pathway is the most common one and the most primitive one. The C3 pathway is the most primitive pathway. After the C3 pathway, the plants adapted according to the conditions and got converted their pathways into C4 pathway and one more pathway, that is CAM pathway. So here in this topic, we'll talk about all these three pathways one by one. But remember some points about C3 pathway, which we'll be seeing further in this topic itself. The first point you need to remember is that the C3 pathway will be the most primitive type. Second point about it is that it will be seen in C4 and CAM pathway also. So we can say that it is a common pathway. Common pathway, reason because it will be seen in C4 and CAM pathway also. This C3 pathway, now we are going to start. You can take the screenshots of the screen so that you will have the notes also simultaneously. So the first cycle or the first pathway we are going to start is this C3 pathway. This C3 pathway is also having some other names also which are important, as the question can have those names also. So remember, it is also known as Calvin-Benson cycle. The other name given to it is PCR cycle. It is not polymerase chain reaction, but it is photosynthetic carbon reduction cycle. So we call it as PCR cycle. The another name is reductive pentose phosphate pathway. So I'll write the complete name. Reductive. Another word is pentose. You need to learn these names. Reductive pentose phosphate pathway. And in the abbreviated form, it is shown as RPPP. Clear? Another name is also there, means one more name is there for this Kelvin cycle, and it is known as pentose phosphate reduction. So one more name is there, pentose phosphate reduction, and it is also expressed in the abbreviated form and abbreviated as PPR cycle. So we have got certain names of the Calvin cycle or Calvin pathway. Before actually explaining this complete pathway, let me get you introduced with some of the important points about the experiments done to explain this Kelvin cycle or C3 pathway, which you need to remember for your exam. So the first point is we have is that Kelvin used the radioisotope carbon 14. So it was not the heavy carbon, but it was radioisotope. It means the carbon he used, that is carbon 14, was radioactive. Another point, Calvin used the algae. Now, we have two names of this algae. The one is chlorella, and sometimes in place of chlorella, they give the Scindesmus algae also. So you need to remember both the names. But the priority is given to chlorella algae. Now, when the study was done on this algae, it was said that the first CO2 fixation product is a 3-carbon compound. And the 3-carbon organic compound was found to be 3-PGA, that is 3-phosphoglyceric acid, 3-PGA, the first compound formed by CO2 fixation. So first CO2 fixation product we can say. Now, this is why these plants who have the C3 cycle are known as C3 plants, because in them the first compound which is formed as the product has 3 carbons present in it. This 3-PGA is a 3-carbon compound. Because the first stable compound is made up of 3 carbons, this pathway is known as C3 pathway. So the reason of nomenclature is very simple. Next is Kelvin cycle can be described under 3 stages. So now we are going to start about this Kelvin cycle. So it has 3 stages which are important for you. Now remember one point for NEET exam also, you just need to learn the C3 cycle given in the NCERT. The detailed C3 cycle is not at all required. No questions are asked from that part. So 3 stages are there. The first one we have is the carboxylation. The first one is carboxylation. The second one we have is reduction. And the third one we have got is regeneration. Now we are going to start with the C3 cycle, where the 3 steps we saw, that is carboxylation, reduction and regeneration, are we going to study. We'll start with the compound RUBP, that is ribulose 1,5-bisphosphate. Since the full forms are important, I'm going to write them here. Ribulose 1,5-bisphosphate. This ribulose 1,5-bisphosphate is actually a 5-carbon compound. The number of carbons are very important. This ribulose 1,5-bisphosphate, which is a 5-carbon compound, is the primary acceptor of the carbon dioxide. So we can say it is primary acceptor. Now, this RUBP, in the presence of the enzyme Rubisco, will accept the atmospheric CO2. It will take the atmospheric CO2 in the presence of the enzyme, which is Rubisco. This Rubisco enzyme, you have studied it in the biochemistry chapter, that it is one of the highest, it is one of the enzymes which is present in the highest concentration, the most abundant enzyme on this earth. This Rubisco enzyme is actually the ribulose 1,5-bisphosphate carboxylase oxygenase enzyme. This enzyme has affinity for both carbon dioxide and oxygen. So when this CO2 is present near the Rubisco enzyme, it will bind with CO2 and it will help the RUBP to react with CO2. Once this RUBP has received the CO2, it will convert into a 3-carbon compound, that is 3-PGA, 3-phosphoglyceric acid. Now, if you recall, I told you that this 3-PGA is a 3-carbon compound. Now, if we calculate the number of carbons, then there is some mistake we feel. That is, 1 carbon is here, 5 carbons is here. So the product must be 6-carbon compound. But the product we get is a 3-carbon compound. So remember, in this first step, that is carboxylation, the first product formed is a keto compound, but that keto compound is an unstable product. Hence, we get the first stable product in the form of 3-PGA. It is first stable product. That 6-carbon keto compound will break into 2 molecules, each of 3 carbon. So to manage the calculations, I'll keep on writing the number of molecules also here in the multiply form, so that when we'll make the complete conclusion about the number of carbon dioxide required and ATP and NADPH to use, we can easily find our answers. Now, from this 5 carbon and 1 CO2, we get 2 molecules of 3-PGA. Now, here we are done with the first step, that is carboxylation. Carboxylation means CO2 fixation. It has a very simple meaning, CO2 fixation. Now, we are going to move towards the second step or the second stage of the C3 cycle, that is reduction. And by this reduction process, 3-PGA converts into triose phosphate. That is, first there will be conversion into two molecules of 3-PgAl, and this two molecules of 3-PgAl will ultimately convert into the triose phosphates, triose phosphate. Now, these triose phosphates like 3-PgAl will ultimately lead to the formation of glucose. So what we are getting? We are getting our final product in the form of glucose, and then the polymerization of this glucose occurs and it converts into sucrose or starch. Remember, the food is translocated in the form of sucrose and it is stored in the form of starch. Now, here what happens, this triose phosphate will only take a limited number of carbons and will send back the remaining carbons back to regenerate the RUBP. So the second step is known as the reduction process. Reduction. Here, this 3-PGA will get reduced by NADPH2. So it is getting reduced by the presence of NADPH2. And along with that, ATPs are also used. So this NADPH2 is used and is converted into NADP plus, and ATP used will convert into ADP. Now we need to find out how many ATPs and how many NADPH2 are being used. So remember, the one molecule of PGA needs one NADPH2, so two molecules will need two NADPH2. One molecule of PGA needs one ATP, so two molecules will need two ATPs. This is the complete reduction process. By this process, 3-PGA converts into 3-PGAl and then further convert into the glucose form. And now we have the third part of the C3 cycle, that is the regeneration process. And during this regeneration, this RUBP is gained again. So the third step is what? The third step is regeneration. I'll tell you how these carbons are used for the regeneration, what is the calculation. But this I'm telling you about one carbon cycle. So the third step is regeneration, and remember the third step uses one ATP. So for the regeneration in one cycle, we use one ATP and this ATP will convert into ADP molecule. Clear? And by this regeneration, we get our RUBP again. This RUBP will be further used for the carboxylation process in the presence of Rubisco enzyme. So what we got to learn over here, let's have a quick revision, then we'll move towards the another part of this cycle. RUBP is ribulose 1,5-bisphosphate. It is the primary acceptor with 5 carbons. This RUBP in the presence of Rubisco enzyme, which has affinity for both carbon and oxygen, will lead to carboxylation, that is CO2 fixation. The first product formed by carboxylation is a keto compound, which is an unstable product. So that unstable product will break into two molecules of 3-PGA. Hence, it is known as first stable product of C3 cycle. This PGA is a 3-carbon compound. Now, this 3-PGA molecules will now go under reduction process and will lead to the formation of triose phosphates. For reduction process, they include NADPH2 and ATP. One molecule of PGA requires one NADPH2 molecule. So two molecules of PGA will need two NADPH2 molecule, and one molecule of PGA requires one ATP molecule. So two molecules of PGA will require two ATP molecules. Now one point here you need to remember is it is also known as reverse glycolysis. Some of you might be thinking where this ATP is used, how this NADPH2 is used, how this 3-PGL is used. So remember, this reduction step is just the reverse of glycolysis. That is, it is also a 10-step process. But here in the photosynthesis chapter, we do not study this process in the detailed form. So just remember how many NADPH2 and ADP are used, what is the substrate, what is the product, and why it is known as reverse glycolysis also. Now, once these triose phosphates are formed, some of the carbons will lead to the formation of glucose, and the remaining one will go for the regeneration step, that is the third step of the C3 cycle. By regeneration, they will give back this RUBP molecules for the next cycle. Now, here we are done with this cycle. Let's have some calculations to understand how many ATPs are used, how many cycles are required to get the desired glucose as the product. So initially we got one molecule of carbon dioxide and five carbon compound, that is RUBP. But remember this point that to get one glucose molecule, you need 6 C3 cycles. All of our calculations regarding one glucose will depend on this point. That is, to form one glucose, we need 6 cycles. So you can take the screenshot now, because now I'll be just marking some things here itself on the screen. So just take the screenshot so that you will have the notes with you. Okay. So now I'm going to mark the required part over here. This RUBP is there with us, and RUBP takes one CO2 molecule, which leads to the carbon dioxide fixation. So in one cycle, only one carbon is given to form the glucose. Only one carbon is given to form the glucose. Remaining 5 carbons will be gone back to form the RUBP, that is in the regeneration process. So once the cycle occurs, one carbon is given, the remaining 5 goes back. Again, the second cycle occurs, the second carbon is given, and the remaining 5 goes back. So this is how the 6 carbons are being collected to form the one glucose molecule for the photosynthesis product. Now, in one cycle, we need to calculate how many ATPs and NADPH2 are being used. So now we'll just mark the required NADPH2 and ATPs. So as you can see in the reduction process, for one cycle, we require 2 molecules of NADPH2 and 2 molecules of ATP for reduction step, and here at the regeneration we require just 1 molecule of ATP. So we can say that for one glucose, for one C3 cycle, we just need total how many ATPs? 2 plus 1, it is equals to 3 ATP, and total how many NADPH2? We just require total 2 NADPH2. Okay. So this is the calculation we need for one C3 cycle. Now, if you need to go for the calculation of one glucose, it is very simple. One glucose needs 6 cycles. If one cycle takes 3 ATPs, then 6 cycles or 6 C3 cycle will take how many ATPs? 6 into 3 ATP. So you won't have to learn anything. It's very easy to remember. It will be equals to 18 ATPs. And if we talk about the NADPH2, then 6 multiplied by 2, it is equals to 12 NADPH2. So as you can see, for one molecule of glucose, we need 6 C3 cycles, and we use 18 ATP molecules and 12 NADPH2 molecules. So if we need to write the net reaction of this C3 cycle, then it will look somewhat like this. I'll write here. We need how many molecules of CO2? We need 6 molecules of CO2. So 6 CO2. Then how many ATPs we use? We use 18 ATPs to produce one glucose. So 18 ATP. Now from this 18, along with this 18 ATP, how many NADPH2 we use? We use 12 NADPH2. And here finally, what is the result of these from these compounds? As a result, we got one glucose molecule, that is C6H12O6. So you can see 6 carbons are included here in the glucose. Along with that, we get 18 ADP, and along with that we get 12 molecules of NADP+. So this is the net reaction of the C3 cycle, which we need to keep in mind. You can take the screenshot here again so that you can see the calculations also. Then we'll move towards the next part, that is the C4 cycle. So the second one we have is C4 pathway. The C4 pathway is also known as Hechon-Slack pathway, based on the name of the scientist who gave this pathway. So Hatch-Slack pathway. Now, why this pathway is known as C4 pathway? The reason is that when Hechon-Slack used radioactive carbon dioxide, that is C14, in the form of carbon dioxide, and experimented in sugarcane plant, they saw that the first compound formed by the fixation is a 4-carbon compound, that is oxaloacetic acid, which is a 4-carbon compound. On this basis, this pathway is known as C4 pathway. After that, Hechon-Slack discovered the sequence of this complete fixation and reduction in the C4 plants. The C4 pathway can be seen in other plants also, like maize and sorghum. These are other important examples for you. So for C4 pathway, you need to remember 3 examples, that is sugarcane, maize and sorghum. Apart from this, in other monocots and dicots, these C4 pathway are found. The plants are usually xerophytes. So generally, C4 pathway is seen in the case of xerophytes. If we talk about the anatomy or internal structure of the C4 plants, then these plants are anatomically quite different from the C3 plants. So we can say that anatomically different from C3 plants. Now, what is the difference here? So the main difference occurs within the cells in which the photosynthesis takes place. So in case of C4 pathway, the Kranz anatomy is seen. What is present in the leaves? Kranz anatomy. This is the characteristic feature of the C4 plants. What is Kranz anatomy? So this is the arrangement where the bundle sheath cells are present around the vascular bundle. Now, this Kranz anatomy is found in C4 pathway, and in case here bundle sheath cells are photosynthetic in nature. So in C4 plants, the two types of cells are involved in the photosynthesis or in the dark phase. One is bundle sheath cell. One is bundle sheath cell. And the another one is mesophyll cell. These two cells have some differences between them, and before starting the C4 cycle, I'll first explain the difference between these two cells because the difference is important for the cycle. So we have two cells, one is bundle sheath cell and another one is mesophyll cell. Now, here the first difference is that in case of bundle sheath cells, they have larger chloroplast. They have large sized chloroplast. Whereas in case of mesophyll cells, chloroplasts are smaller in size. The second difference is that the bundle sheath cells have thick wall, and this cell wall or thick wall will be impermeable to gases, whereas in case of mesophyll cells they have thin wall which will be permeable to gases, means exchange of gases is done easily in the bundle sheath cells, whereas it is not done so easily in the case of bundle sheath cells. The third difference is that in the case of bundle sheath cells, there is no intercellular space present. No intercellular space, whereas they have intercellular space. We can say intercellular space is present. Space present. Remember, these differences can be asked directly in the questions also. Now, the next point is that in case of bundle sheath cells, the grana are absent. Grana absent, so the chloroplast is known as agranal chloroplast. Remember, here the thylakoids are present individually. The stacked thylakoids are absent. Whereas in case of mesophyll cells, they have grana present. Or we can say their chloroplast is granule type. Now, the next point is that here in the case of bundle sheath cells, the oxygen evolution is not there. So no oxygen evolved. Whereas in case of mesophyll cells, oxygen evolution takes place. We can say oxygen evolved. The next point we have is about the CO2 acceptor. So in case of bundle sheath cells, remember RUBP will accept the carbon dioxide, whereas in case of mesophyll cells, this CO2 will be accepted by PEP, phosphoenol pyruvate. Remember, these points, we'll use these points when we'll see the C4 cycle. The next point is that here in the case of bundle sheath cells, final CO2 fixation takes place. So here final CO2 fixation is taking place. Whereas in case of mesophyll cells, initial means the starting CO2 fixation takes place. Next is the presence of plasmodesmatal connection. So remember, the compounds are exchanged between the bundle sheath cells and mesophyll cells by the use of plasmodesmata. Means the compounds can get transferred from one type of cell to another through these cellular connections, which are known as plasmodesmata. And now I'll tell you about the C4 cycle. So let's start with the cycle. So we'll start with this C4 cycle, and my first step is to divide the screen into two parts. So here I have divided the screen into two parts. The left side, I'll take it as the mesophyll cell. Mesophyll cell, and the right side, I'll take it as bundle sheath cell. Now, here we'll talk about the dark reaction. But let me tell you why I told you about the chloroplast being granule or agranule or oxygen evolution. So I'll tell you some important points here for C4 plants, then we'll move towards the dark reaction also in the C4 plants. Here oxygen evolution takes place, here not. Reason? In the mesophyll cells, the grana are present, means the thylakoids are present in the stacked form in the chloroplast. And we know that when the grana are present, then only PS2 works and the photolysis of water occurs and oxygen is evolved. Whereas here in the chloroplast, no grana are present, individual thylakoids are present, so no PS2 active, no oxygen evolution is being done. So this is the reason why oxygen evolution does not take place. Remember this point as question can be asked. Now we'll move towards the C4 cycle. So in the mesophyll cell, first of all, what happens? We have this compound, the primary CO2 acceptor, that is PEP, which is phosphoenol pyruvate. Just remember the full names also. This phosphoenol pyruvate is actually a 3-carbon compound. It is a 3-carbon compound. This phosphoenol pyruvate will accept the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and will convert this CO2 into the first stable product. Now, this conversion of CO2 or the fixation of CO2 into the first stable product, that is OAA, oxaloacetic acid, which is a 4-carbon compound, is done in the presence of an enzyme which is known as Pappkase enzyme. Pappkase enzyme is there, which is responsible for this CO2 fixation by PEP. Now, once this oxaloacetic acid is formed, this oxaloacetic acid will convert into malic acid. And this conversion leads to the production of NADP from NADPH2. So a molecule of NADPH2 is used and is converted into NADP. This NADP molecule will go back in the light reaction and will get the assimilatory power again. Now this malic acid will move from mesophyll cells to bundle sheath cells through plasmodesmatal connections. Clear? Remember this point, malic acid is also a 4-carbon compound because here no removal of carbon is being done. So malic acid is also a 4-carbon compound. Next step is there where the malic acid has entered the bundle sheath cells. So here we have what? Here we have this malic acid. This malic acid will now release a carbon dioxide molecule and the another molecule, that is pyruvic acid. So this is pyruvic acid, which is a 3-carbon compound, and another CO2 molecule which is going to enter into the Calvin cycle. So remember, this CO2 will enter in the Calvin cycle, and from this Calvin cycle what do we get? We get a molecule of glucose. How many ATPs are being used? Remember the C3 cycle, 18 ATP and 12 NADPH2 are being used. Remember, whenever NADPH2 is used, here the reduction takes place. So remember this point now, that here reduction is occurring. When oxaloacetic acid converts into malic acid, here reduction takes place. While when malic acid gives off pyruvic acid, it also gives off the NADPH2 back. So this NADP will convert into NADPH2. Clear? This NADPH2, what is its function? So remember, this NADPH2 is going to be used over here in this form, because no photosystem 2 is present in bundle sheath cells. So no NADPH2 will be possible, no Z schema is there. So NADPH2 is transported in the form of malic acid itself. Clear? Now we'll see what happens to the pyruvic acid. So we'll move towards the pyruvic acid. This pyruvic acid will now move into the mesophyll cells again by these plasmodesmatal connections. And here we have got this pyruvic acid. Sometimes you will get the word pyruvate also. Both have the same meanings. It's just the iron name. Now, next, this pyruvate or pyruvic acid will regenerate to phosphoenol pyruvate, that is PEP, in the presence of an enzyme that is known as PPDK. The full form of this enzyme is important, so I'm going to write over here. Please learn that. Pyruvate phosphate dikinase. Clear? This pyruvate phosphate dikinase will lead to the regeneration of phosphoenol pyruvate from pyruvic acid. Now, one more important thing is here for us, that is one calculation is here. Remember, this PPDK converts 6 molecules of ATP into 6 molecules of AMP. It means that how many phosphate molecules are being removed? It means total 12 phosphate molecules are being removed over here. Now, if you are calculating the total ATP used for this C4 cycle, then you cannot add these conversions from ATP to AMP and ATP to ADP, because here in the Calvin cycle, ATP converts into ADP and here PPDK is converting it into AMP. So we just change this calculation to make our results easier. And now I'll show you how this calculation is being done here. So remember, we have ATP, And total how many phosphates we need? We need 12 phosphates. So I'll use 12 ATPs, and 1 ATP gives off 1 phosphate to convert into ADP. So 12 ATPs will give off 12 phosphates and will convert into 12 ADP. So while calculating the total use of ATP and ADP, I'll use this calculation. But you also need to remember that 6 ATPs are converted into 6 AMP. So here the complete cycle of C4 plants is being given. We know that for production of one glucose molecule, we need 6 Kelvin cycles, right? And for 6 Kelvin cycles, we need 6 CO2 molecules. So for 6 CO2 molecules, we'll need how many malic acids? We will need 6 malic acids. So we can say that total how many C4 cycles are required? We need total 6 C4 cycles. So total 6 C4 cycles will be done to get one glucose molecule. So I can say 6 CO2 molecules, 6 PEP. Everywhere I'll use the 6 to get one glucose, and then regeneration from 6 pyruvic acids to 6 PEP. Now here, if one molecule of CO2 uses 2 ATPs to convert into the malic acid in the mesophyll cell, total how many ATPs will be used? Total 6 ATPs will convert into AMP, or 12 ATPs will convert into ADP. So remember, one CO2 uses 2 molecules of ATP in mesophyll cell, and 6 CO2 molecules will use 12 ATP. So if you need to write the net use in the complete C4 cycle to produce one glucose molecule, then we can say that we use total 30 ATPs and 12 NADPH2. As this NADPH2 use will be recovered here back, so we do not count this, we just count these NADPH2 used in the Calvin cycle for one glucose molecule. We need 30 ATP and 12 NADPH2. So if question asks you to calculate for one C4 cycle, then what you will do? We'll simply divide this by 6 and we get 5 ATP plus how many NADPH2 will require? Will require 2 NADPH2. Remember, out of these 5, 2 are used in mesophyll cell and 3 are used here in the Calvin cycle, whereas both the NADPH2 are being used here in the Calvin cycle itself. So here we are done with the C4 cycle. Some more important points are there for C4 cycle is that the first point is C4 plants are more efficient than C3 plants at less CO2 concentration, because the C4 plants has this separation of Rubisco enzyme from oxygen. Next point is that the productivity in C4 plants will not increase if the CO2 concentration is increased further. Now we'll move towards the third pathway, that is, so next we have got is CAM pathway. This CAM pathway stands for crussylation, acid, metabolism pathway. Now, apart from this CAM pathway, few more names are there for this, that is dark CO2 fixation. Dark CO2 fixation. The reason it is known as dark CO2 fixation is that the initial CO2 fixation takes place in the dark, that is at the night time, It is also known as dark acidification. Dark acidification, because here by this CO2 fixation at the night, acids are being produced in the night, so it is known as dark acidification. Now, in this CAM pathway, the most common plants in which this pathway is seen is succulent xerophytes. So succulent xerophytes are there as the example, like we have kalanchoy, bryophyllum, etc. Now, here the similarity is there with C3 and C4 plants. That will be clear when we'll see the CAM pathway. And here remember, the primary CO2 acceptor is PEP, phosphoenol pyruvate, whereas just like C4 plants, the final CO2 acceptor is RUBP, as we saw in the in the C4 plants. But the difference between CAM plants and C4 plants is that in case of CAM plants, only mesophyll cells are there. Only mesophyll. Means the complete process of photosynthesis is done within these mesophyll cells. No Kranz anatomy is there. No Kranz anatomy. Now, here in this case of CAM plants, also the total number of ATPs used is 30. So 30 ATP are being used. As soon as I'll tell this CAM pathway how these 30 ATPs are used and 12 NADPH2 are used will be clear in your mind. The next point is that the CAM plants are adaptation to xeric habit, means they have the adaptation to xeric habits, like presence of cuticle is there. Xeric habitats. Okay. So here we are done with few points of this CAM pathway. Now we'll start with this CAM pathway cycle. To explain this CAM pathway, I'll simply draw a line again on the screen. And here I'll show you that the left side represents the night time, whereas the right side represents the daytime. So remember first point that in case of CAM plants, the differentiation of timing of the day is there, not the differentiation of the cells. So at the night time, what is happening? At the night, the stomatas will open. Stomata open because of their xeric habitat. Their stomatas will open because of less presence of water. In the daytime, stomata closes. So the plants also have to modify their photosynthetic methods to adapt to these opening and closing of stomata. So what happens actually? At the night time, this PEP is present in the cell, in the mesophyll cell, phosphoenol pyruvate. This phosphoenol pyruvate converts into oxaloacetic acid in the presence of enzyme peptidase. Phosphoenol pyruvate kinase. Now here this oxaloacetic acid is formed when the stomata opens and CO2 molecule is being taken by the phosphoenol pyruvate, right? So PEP being 3-carbon compound with 1 carbon dioxide molecule will form a 4-carbon compound. Now this oxaloacetic acid will convert into malic acid. And for this conversion, they use 1 NADPH2. Means here the reduction of oxaloacetic acid takes place and they produce one molecule of NADP. Now here this malic acid will get stored within the vacuole. Means this malic acid is going to store itself in the vacuole. So we can say it enters in the vacuole. Here. Now, as soon as the daytime comes, means now here we have this vacuole present. From this vacuole, the malic acid will now come out. Now, this malic acid, just like what we saw in the C4 pathway, this malic acid will give out one CO2 molecule and will convert into pyruvic acid by getting oxidized again. So here again what we get, NADPH2 from NADP. Now here what happens, the CO2 will enter inside the Calvin cycle, like C3 cycle we can say, and will produce what? Glucose, right? Whereas this pyruvic acid will move back to regenerate phosphoenol pyruvate. So to regenerate this phosphoenol pyruvate, the enzyme as we saw in the C4 plants, the same enzyme is responsible, that is PPDK, pyruvate phosphate dikinase, and the same conversions are there, that is 6 ATP will convert into 6 AMP, or we can say 12 ATP will convert into 12 molecules of ADP. So remember, to form one glucose, we need 6 cycles of this night time, and these 6 cycles will utilize these 6 NADPH2 here, and here they will release the 6 NADPH2. If we write the net gain or net use of ATP, then we write 30 ATPs and 12 NADPH2 to form one glucose. And just like C4 plants, for one cycle of CAM pathway, we require 5 ATP plus 2 NADPH2 molecule. So this is complete CAM pathway. It has quite similarities with C3 and C4, as you can see over here. Now, one important point is that this CAM pathway has less photo respiration as compared to C3 plants, and less transpiration also. The reason is that the stomata opens at night time, so water loss is less, and because the action of these enzymes is at different times, so here photorespiration is also less. If you like the video and if you got the topic understood, please like, share and subscribe this channel.